we're back with another episode of, the Lakers Fast Break podcast. I almost broke Joe Soros' eardrums on that one. Because I'm like, I saw you check it, like, oh, that was a little bit too loud. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. And I can tell you for sure on Friday's show, we are definitely going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it's a little bit of a pricey nature there. So we'll discuss that on Friday. Also, as well, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football. Joe Soro, Chris Sardieri, and we discussed Week 1, the disappointments, and the guys you should look at on your waiver wire. Do it now. Listen now, and then do it now for your team. Plus, some Week 2 picks for players and teams. Right there for you on Inside Sports, Fantasy Football. Also, as well, Joe Soro's here. He is Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. And, of course, Symblates with a Y.com. A big shout-out to our members, Darren, Sports Baby, Richard, Bloodhound, and Xbox. If you want to become a member today, it's just $2.99 a month. And you'll get some cool badges, emojis, and big shout-outs from us right here, the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Our good friends also as well, John Costa, Clutch Talking Lakers Corner, which we're on right now. Welcome to the Lakers Fast Break. Also as well, of course, Lakers in 5, Empire Jeff TV, Stone Hansen at report_court, Daniel Barry Sports Highlights, yo! Also as well, of course, John McCalian channel, the Lakerholics crew of Jamie Sweet and Laker Tom, and Michael as well, Michael Heinrich. Go ahead and check those guys out each and every time out at Lakerholics.com. There's also as well, of course, all the good things that we do right here. If you like what you see and you like what you hear, we're back under 1,800. We're up 1,800, we're down 1,800. We're now at 1,798. Tomorrow we'll be at 1,799. Tomorrow we'll be at 1,801. I don't know. We'll see. But please, you can always help us out by liking and subscribing today. You can get the latest notifications. It's frustrating, Joe, because we go a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down. But you get the latest notifications when you do subscribe to the latest notifications. Hit that little bell, and you'll know when we're on the air with the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Yeah, Bloodhound, it's a hard no for me at $800 as well. I'll just leave it at that. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you joining us. We are just a few weeks out. Few short periods of time before training camp begins. Yes, I know informal workouts are taking place all over the place. I know that you've already been in and out of the UCLA Health Center. But speaking of health, if you haven't been listening to our latest episodes, we have covered Jared Vanderbilt, according to Mike Bresnahan, reported last week from Spectrum Sportsnet, saying that Jared Vanderbilt may be out through the entirety of training camp and the exhibition season, with trying to rehab from his injuries. And also as well, Christian Wood was announced yesterday as undergoing arthroscopic surgery, and he'll be out at least 8 weeks. So where does that leave the Lakers? And is this a precursor, as we used to have? One of the names and one of the words that we used to use. Why is there always two links to click on? I'm not following you on there. 2 links for what, Darren? I don't know. It's only 1 link for me, but I go to YouTube. It's on right there. I'm not sure as to why. All I see is 1 in my screen. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. So, Joe, let me ask you this. When it comes right down to it, 2 injuries so far. Is this a precursor for what may be yet to come for the Lakers season?
Precursor as in what?
More injuries, possibly another lost season for the Lakers. Doom and gloom, as we are always told that we say on this show, instead of just calling it like it is, like I think
we've reiterated this a billion times, and you know how I'm feeling about telling people we say what we want. That's kind of played out at this point. What needs to be discussed is who's going to replace Christian Wood and Vanderbilt in the lineup, and what the plan is in terms of allocating minutes to where your stars aren't tired by January.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need Cam Reddish to take over the Vanderbilt role. He's the only tall perimeter player that has shown that he can play some defense. That's going to be a question to ask. Can he be a 20, 25 minute a game player and consistent game in and game out? He has never been in his entire career, so this would have to be his first year. The other is who's going to back up Anthony Davis. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Jackson Hayes, and if that's the case, that means Jackson Hayes is going to have to play a lot more minutes than he played last year. I believe he averaged 18 minutes last year, 20.
Yeah, about that. I'm gonna look it up right now, but I think that sounds right about where it is.
He needs to play 25 minutes this year and hopefully be able to hold his own on the defensive end. But that's the issue with Jackson Hayes is he's not very.
Actually, it was actually less, man. It was actually 12 and a half.
Oh, I guess it was giving him the benefit of the doubt. Asking Jackson Hayes to play 10 more minutes than he did last year,
which would make it 22 minutes.
I would be. That's a tall order for someone who does have an issue processing plays. He's got the athleticism. He has I'm sure he has the energy and the want to be good, but I think his processing computer in the brain doesn't back up in good moments during a play, and of course doing it on a consistent basis, game in and game out. If that's not there, then that means Anthony Davis is going to play more minutes, and more minutes for Anthony Davis means there's likely there's more of a chance of him getting hurt and or getting burnt out early this year. The Lakers are going to have to find a center or a backup big. And I'm not talking about during the deadline. I'm talking the moment the season starts. I don't know what the hell they're going to do if they don't do that. I really don't. And it's going to be very important that they figure it out. Otherwise, this is going to tax Anthony Davis, and he will not have enough juice likely to end the season on a 4-series playoff run.
Because Anthony Davis, we talked about minutes, and we'll get this one right off the bat. I mean, we talked about Jackson Hayes only averaging 12 and a half minutes. With the Lakers last season, Anthony Davis was one of the highest in the league, Joe. 35 and a half minutes a game. It's not his highest by any stretch of the imagination. He's had 3 or 4 seasons which have had more, but he is not 21, 22, 23, 24 when he had those seasons where he was averaging 36 minutes a game. He's now 30, 31 years old. Joe, that's a problem.
31 and there's no chance of, I would say, gauging the season and not having to worry about maybe playing him in certain stretches. I'm not a big fan of not, taking games off for no reason, but there would be games during the year where he would play maybe 20, 25 minutes because the team is blowing people out. And his backup or his contemporary, maybe not exact contemporary, but a starter that's next to him could fill in the gaps a little bit for him. But the Lakers don't have any of that. And Christian Wood wasn't really that guy either, but he's still an NBA player that can perform. And now it looks like he's not going to play at least first month. It's a very, very dangerous way to start the season. It's very, very dangerous because your main issue last year wasn't shooting and it wasn't health. It was not being able to get a rebound. And right now you don't have a defensive player, your number one perimeter defensive player available probably again for another month. I'm going to say 2 months because Vanderbilt is made of glass, maybe even worse. There's very little confidence in that this roster will be able to cover that.
The thing is, though, it's funny because you say that. You realize, Joe, that the first exhibition game for the Lakers is on the 4th. That's less than a month away.
Mm-hmm. And the exhibition won't matter. The excuse machines will come out and say, well, it's the preseason. They're not taking this seriously. And then you'll see the excuse machine again say how, well, it's J.J. Redick's first time coaching, blah, 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 blah. And when we have to continue to say the same thing over and over again, I'm not getting another result. So therefore, I'm going to sound like I'm insane, even if I'm correct. If you all don't understand basketball, then you should shut up. And no, I don't have to play in the NBA to understand a pick and roll, a flex offense, the triangle. I've watched enough basketball, and I've played. I've not played in the NBA or in college, but I've played enough basketball to know that basketball is not that complicated, folks. So this is a very obvious deficiency that the Lakers have, and there's been nothing done to fix it. And on top of that, you're starting to hear the usuals come up lame, and that part probably will add even more angst to this. And that's where we stand at this point.
Once again, I was going to
proceed. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks so much for watching this and truly appreciate it. And again, we do love when somebody is very positive on the Lakers, maybe a little bit, in our opinion, unrealistic about it. But Adam, who has been a part of our great community here at the Lakers Fast Break for quite some time, and we truly appreciate it. He says, sorry, guys, but we have the same team that made it to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. Mind you, you're saying that all those other teams have done nothing in those two years since as well. So again, it's you have to understand that if other teams are improving their team, your team has to improve as well. And the Lakers have taken a step, now 2 steps back, as opposed to the teams that have gotten better in the Western Conference. But okay, Adam, I appreciate your positivity. And Joe, I'll get it to you in a sec. We added solid players, he added, like Wood and Connect. I don't know. Wood has not been solid yet, and his knee is not very solid right now, but okay. And Connect, as much as I'm high on him, he is an unproven rookie. So we'll have to see what happens there. As much as I've been defending him against Rodell in the emails, again, he is still an unproven rookie, and we'll have to see where it goes from there. I don't feel sorry for us at all. I think we're going to win 55 games at least. The question I have is, Joe, should we still continue to legalize marijuana? Because, man, that stuff has got to be strong that you're using, Adam, out there, man, because it's really, really very potent to think that the Lakers are going to win 55 games with no moves outside of Dalton Connect.
I don't think he's using the usual indica flower stuff. I think he's using the oils.
That's like beyond Laker Tom stuff there, Joe.
Yeah, Laker, but still, even the flower healthier stuff is still zaps brain cells. If you don't believe me, I'll take you around to some of my buddies, and you'll be able to see it. Guys that smoked every day for 40, 50 years who have now stopped because their brain cells are gone. But that's a discussion for a different matter.
And when let me ask you this, Joe, when has Wood been solid for us?
He's not been solid. And that's the part where you want to be positive about the year being great. You want to predict,
which is great, and you want
to predict them winning 55 games, great. But when you say things like Wood has been, what did he say again?
Solid for us.
Solid what? Solid where? How? Do you have his numbers, Gerald, with you? Can you read them off to me?
I'll bring it up. Yeah, I'll bring it
Okay.
up. So
I mean, guys, you can predict and you can hope and you can want all you want, but you can't be uneducated.
all right. So last year, here goes. 17 minutes a game. Started one game, 50 games total. So 50 out of 82 games. He averaged 6.9 points and hit 5 rebounds a game.
Yeah, and
he shot only 30% from the 3-point line, Joe, which was about 70%, 0.7% less than what he shot the previous season.
Our society's definition of great has greatly changed, and good. We have become enamored by mediocrity so much that we assume that mediocrity is enough. Because we're being taught that, folks, because anytime you're too successful, there's always an excuse. Oh, well, they got money from somewhere, or they got lucky from somewhere. That everyone that's been successful in the world has gotten some kind of lucky thing and they screwed somebody. More often than not, that is true. But the people who are getting screwed are allowing themselves typically to get screwed. And I can talk about that all day. And I could even talk about your favorite subject, video games, Gerald, and how that continues to happen. Because you think it's the bigger ups. It's not. It's those who slave themselves to the scum because of the green. And you look at the Lakers' talent pool, it's very, very minimal. It's very, very minimal. And I'm not just talking about on the court. I'm talking about from the beginning to the middle to the court. You really only have 2 players on that team that are dynamic. Now, you don't need to be AD and LeBron to be dynamic. You can have a dynamic player like, I don't know, who were the 2 biggest players? Who were the names that you heard a lot during the finals? Derek White, Drew Holiday. Those kind of guys. Where are those guys on a team with 2 studs? We don't have any. We have guys that can play a little bit on offense. We have guys that are okay on each side, maybe a little bit less than okay on one side.
They're specialists, Joe.
They're what they are is they are not starters on a championship team. Rui Hachimura, maybe he might improve his game this year. So I'm waiting to see that one. I don't know where that will go.
Let me put you on hold. I'm sorry, Joe, and I don't mean to, but when something comes on the chat, I got to go ahead and answer it. My phone went dead, Adam. No worries, I understand. But Gerald, Joe, do you guys think D'Lo and Austin suck? We've never said D'Lo and Austin suck. At times last year, Austin's defense sucked. It sucked in FIBA and sucked for the first 60%, 70% of last season until he decided to make an effort to make himself at least a passable to average defender. And he worked really hard against Murray in that first round against Denver. Now, mind you, he still hit the shots when it counted the most. But if you look at the numbers, he played as hard as he could on the defensive end against Murray. So I don't think by any stretch of the imagination they suck, D'Lo and Austin. But D'Lo is an offensive specialist. He is a 3-point specialist. He can play make, he can pass, he can throw the lob to AD, he can do some certain things, but he is extremely exploitable on the defensive end in a playoff structure. And with Austin playing his butt off on defense, you saw how much it affected his offense, Joe. So by no means do I think they suck, but they're perfectly adequate for a regular season, Joe. But those 2 are not the backcourt. That's not the backcourt you want to have for a championship run.
I'd be willing to deal with that backcourt if you have a very good small.
If you have a third player, if you have a
third player, and then a couple of guys coming off the bench that can score and play a little bit of defense. Everyone's playing by the same rules, yet I'm seeing teams that are stacked and paying a lot of their players even more money than what the Lakers are paying their top two guys, yet they're still making transactions.
Well, think of it like this, Joe. Let's say you modded your truck originally to be this hot rod truck, and you're racing against other competitors, and you were pretty good. You were very competitive in the first year you were going at it, but you kept on, instead of everybody trying to do upgrades, everybody's doing upgrades. They're doing mods. They're continually upgrading and trying to better their vehicle. You stood pat. You stood pat with what you had and said, you know what? I'm going to go to war with this. I'm going to race with this. And little by little, more competitors started passing you by. This summer, you saw, Joe, what the Western Conference with Oklahoma City, with what Minnesota, with what New Orleans, with what all these other teams, Sacramento, with all these other teams making changes, either small or large, that are really looking like that they might pass by the Lakers.
They've already passed them, as far as I'm concerned.
A lot of these teams have.
Yes, because the leadership and the skill sets are not there to build a team correctly. The team is not built correctly. Let's use Oklahoma City. I've been using the Celtics a lot for examples because they're the champs. But let's look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were a first seed. A surprise first seed nonetheless, but a first seed, very young team. They are kind of trapped right now a little bit, right? In terms of money too. But they were still able to go get Hartenstein. They were still able to go get Alex Caruso. Yes, I know those guys aren't getting paid $40, $50 million a year, but they're still getting them. And those are the type of guys that the Lakers needed to get. But they've put themselves in such a black hole that they allow themselves to not even have a chance legally to do it. Yet you have teams like OKC and Boston and all these contenders that seem to have a niche, an ability to make these things happen. And the result so far is the Celtics are a champion, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are likely going to compete for a championship this year and might probably go to a Western Conference final. Chet Holmgren will be a big – Chet Holmgren has to make a leap. I know it's not fair to say that for a second-year rookie, but if they are to compete for a championship and not be that, oh, they're a one seed, but I think somebody can take them out, Chet has to play at another level next year, almost top 3 defensive player of the year
at least
stuff.
at least in the playoffs. With Hartenstein there, Hartenstein's going to give him a lot of help. That's now a lot of size, Joe, and a lot of rebounding taken off. That's like for AD. I just think of Hartenstein or a player like that would have come on to the Lakers. How much pressure is taken off AD's shoulders?
Pressure as in not having to go into a game and guard everyone's player as well as his. See, AD gets a lot of flack for getting killed by the big boys, right? And why is that? Am I making an excuse for him based off what I've watched? Maybe. But why would AD look like Olajuwon in 2020 against Jokic, and then now he can't even seem to stay in front of him? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that at some point that there's a mental breakdown from having to do too much. And then when you're playing elite bigs, which the league has gotten a lot of elite bigs here in the last few years, more than it's been known to have, right? It was a very perimeter guard league for about, 15 years?
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see the big man come back, right? So now you have this player who is a big, but he was more of a finesse power forward at a position center. and guys like Joel Embiid, who've got a very strong base, Jokic, who has a very strong base and is very fundamentally sound. The thing with Joel Embiid is he's so good at making shots for a big. You could say he's one of the greatest bigs in terms of shot making. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. Usually bigs don't shoot that well. He's what Yao Ming was supposed to be. If Yao Ming didn't get destroyed by his own country to go play every summer. Yao Ming would have had a career like Joel Embiid had he not been hurt. And then you have the kind of second-tier guys like Sabonis in Sacramento, and then you have the Hartensteins and those types. Wembanyama obviously is going to be another big that's probably going to win multiple MVPs. Chet Holmgren will probably win at least a Defensive Player of the Year award. So here they come, folks, skilled big men, and they're going to be an integral part of the game. And they're going to be coming into their own a little bit more here in the next year or two, which, AD's got some time to play too. So how are you going to combat that? Oh, I know how you're going to combat that. You're not going to give AD any legitimate backup center or anyone to start with him to kind of give some kind of matchup evening against a Denver or an OKC or a Sacramento King team.
One of the things I want to show you what the future looks like over the next few years as far as maneuverability and who can make the trades that can change things for the landscape of the NBA going forward. Take a look at this. This was on Bobby Marks' Twitter account. The next 7 years, 62 of the first round picks right now, as of right now, are owned by those 5 teams that you're seeing out there. It's the Spurs, the Nets, the Thunder, the Jazz, and the Rockets, Joe. Those teams combined own 62 first round picks for the next 7 years. That's a lot of things that you can play with if you do it right.
And all but one are Western Conference teams, right?
Of course. Yep.
So
just Brooklyn.
So the 1 year that the Western Conference kind of got shellacked by the East, you're now going to see even the bottom dwellers now, like Utah and San Antonio and the up-and-coming Houston Rockets, even those guys are going to start getting better. And looking at it from LeBron's standpoint and maybe even AD's standpoint, do they really care about what happens in the next 62 first-round picks?
No,
but
unless those 62 draft picks, or let's just say a portion of those, are traded out for star players to go on those other teams.
One cares. LeBron doesn't care. LeBron cares about himself first, second, third, fourth, and until infinity. And if anyone wants to deny that, come onto the show, and I'll give you about 400 examples on why. So he doesn't give two craps about any of that stuff or what the Lakers do in 2 years, because he's going to be gone. And this malarkey about him owning an NBA team, unless Adam Silver gives him an expansion team, I don't know where this owning a team bit garbage is coming from. He doesn't have enough
They were
money.
kind of cool. They didn't really discuss it at the latest owners meeting, but he said it's something that's still on the table and most likely will happen. Not sooner, but kind of soon.
Well, I'm feeling like the expansion thing isn't something
they're not as hot for it as
because there's already too many teams in the NBA that are mediocre. So if you spread this thing thin and have 32 teams in the NBA, now it's gonna be even thinner.
Well, they signed that contract too, Joe. That kind of takes a lot of pressure off to having to depend on those $500 million fees that you need just to have.
It doesn't. That part doesn't matter. They just signed a $76 billion deal.
That's what I just said.
The point is they did this in the 90s, and what happened to Vancouver? What happened to the original Bobcats? You see, the thing is with the NBA, it actually should be less teams in my book, because there's not a lot of NBA talent, real NBA talent. The teams should have stayed at 26, 28 at its max. There's too many teams in the NBA. One being for sure Charlotte. Charlotte should be gone. They should not exist. Washington, I'll say, can stay because there is a history there. They've won championships. They have all-time greats from that team. So I'd say, okay, and plus it's a big market. So I'd say, okay, I'll let that one slide. But there's no New Orleans and Charlotte shouldn't have any teams. No one in New Orleans. I have friends in Baton Rouge. I don't know. I have friends in South Carolina. They don't give a two shits about the Hornets or the Pelicans, whether they were living in Baton Rouge or whether they were living in Charleston. They don't care. They don't care. So what is the point of now adding, we want to add a team in Vegas? Vegas has enough teams, guys. Why does everyone want to have a team in Vegas? I
don't want a baseball
Oakland
team
A's in Vegas. They're going to put the Oakland A's in Vegas. The team, the net worth of the team is going to go up, obviously, and that's all they care about, right? And people are going to get a bunch of tickets. They're going to have their TV contracts, and they're going to get all their money, or they're going to have some casino bankroll, something. Who knows? But the quality of the game is garbage.
Well, the Vegas, the basketball team, I think it's something we would support. I don't know about the baseball team. I mean, the Raiders are okay.
It's all going to be supported. There were the highest ratings of all time apparently happened in the NFL this weekend. The product was complete and utter trash.
Yes, it was. I'm not going to
disagree. So bad, it doesn't matter. Going back to my point is that, Adam, you have been suckered into the mediocrity world. You have now accepted mediocrity as enough to think that things are going to be good. I refuse. I know what great is, and I know what good is, and I know what mediocre is. And I'm never going to call me an old man, call me whatever the hell you want. I really don't give a shit. Point is, I know what good is, and I know what great is, and we're not seeing any of it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People are still going to watch. So I'm a lost cause at this point in this thing. Either I go away or I just deal with it, and that's where it is.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Sorrell along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching. Truly appreciate it. May the force be with you, cool bro. Truly appreciate you stopping by. But I will say, though, that the Lakers have their own concerns with whatever talent they have now. And again, Adam, I appreciate your positivity. I mean, we've had Juan here. We've had a couple others here that are really super high on the Lakers. I don't know why. I don't know what they're seeing that we're not, because, again, as they stood pat with what they had, Joe, the rest of the league is making changes. Even Phoenix.
I don't mind them being positive about the season, but don't tell me Christian Wood is solid. Okay. That's the problem. No, he's not. He is not. Neither is Vanderbilt. When you're not playing, you are useless. Redick is useless. Gabe Vincent last year is useless. They've shown no reason to have any confidence, and they've played in no way to say things like they're solid. They're not. You want to say D'Lo is solid? Yes. Austin? Yes. Rui? Yes. But don't insult people's intelligence and spew that kind of stuff when it's not true. Because you want to feel optimistic. Feel optimistic by saying, we're going to have a good year. Something is going to happen. I'm feeling confident. Great. Good for you. But don't come back with something stupid. Like, oh, man, Austin's going to play defense like a second all-team NBA. Come on, folks. Really?
He had to work his ass off just to get to a level where he could compete on the defense.
It's not fair to expect Austin Reeves to play like that. He is not that guy. It's not his fault. Doesn't have the athleticism. There's a reason why he wasn't drafted. Okay? It's not his fault. The fact that he's here is amazing. And we don't dog on Austin Reeves, do we? Other than saying, hey, he struggled here and look, he has outplayed his draft, non-draft career already. Like he can go. If he never plays another game in his life, he's succeeded.
Because he was undrafted. There wasn't that much
Correct.
expected of him.
Now, D'Angelo Russell, unfortunately, for a second overall pick, I was expecting him to be in the ilk of a James Harden. Maybe not James Harden, but at least close. But some guys can't be about it 82 games a year, year in, year out. That takes a certain skill in the mind. And as much as I don't like James Harden, at least he was about it for a decade. And he came through, at least from an individual standpoint. The other thing is Rui Hachimura. If you said, hey, I'm feeling like maybe Rui might have a better year this year. Yes, I want to hear that. Because there has been evidence and there has been videos where he is working his rear end off and he is trying to improve. Yes, I will buy that one. But don't tell me something like Christian Wood is solid, okay? Unless you're actually talking about real Wood and a real Christian. Both those are solid, yes. A real Christian and Wood are solid, but Christian Wood is not. He has not shown solidness in any way.
Adam, he hasn't done it with the Lakers. He said Wood's worst year was last year by far. He scores, he rebounds. He used to score. He used to rebound, and he used to block shots. When he was on other teams, he was actually escorted by Jason Kidd out of Dallas. I mean, that should have given everybody the message that something was going wrong with Christian Wood's game, because the way he was just not welcome back in Dallas when they had a chance to sign him for a longer term. So that's a concern. And to come off a arthroscopic knee surgery, Joe, the vengeance tour for him, as he called it, is now on hold. But before you touch on that, Remy, I wanted to touch on something for you. He said in all caps, because he was shouting this, I guess, the sign of bad things coming are the sign of signing of Bronny and the extension of his daddy. That will be the downfall of our Lakers.
The downfall was before all that. The downfall was the focus being off of filling in the deficiencies of this team and the excuse machines that came out because of it. Your team needed rebounding. They didn't need a 6'1" guard who barely could play in college. Do you understand, folks? All of you who say hate the word haters when someone's talking about their team, I want this to resonate. I know most of our crew here understand who we are. For those of you who are listening who aren't on the chat and maybe here listening for the first time, I don't give two shits about any of these guys' personal life, okay? Unless they're the only time let me correct that. Unless they're messing with children, hurting women, and murdering people without cause, I don't give two squirts about what these guys do. I don't care if LeBron is having a party across the street. I don't give a shit about LeBron James personally. I care about the basketball part. And the Lakers did not prove in any way that they were focused on improving this team because they wasted so much of their time. Oh, well, no one comes out of that very good anyway. See, that's how losers talk, folks. For those of you who thought that way and talk like that, get rid of that loser mentality. Okay? Manu Ginobili was picked 2 spots over 55 in the second round. Don't tell me you can't get talent. The second round pick is the MVP right now, 3 out of 4 years. You're never going to win this argument. You will never win it. You are mediocre if you do, and you're just telling yourself garbage. Now, if you want to go cream yourself because you want to see the father-son thing, then go watch the Beverly Hills of Skankville 40, whatever the hell those shows are. That's what those are for. This is for men. This is for sports. This is for people who have talent. and are trying to win and beat people up. At least that's how I look at it. That's a good one too, Brian. Nick Van Exel. We got Nick Van Exel in the second round at a time where you very rarely got good players like that in the second round.
Jalen Brunson, second rounder, top five.
Jalen Brunson, Nick Van Exel,
Zubac,
Jokic, Manu. I mean, Draymond Green. Why? How? You think we're stupid? You think we can't go look? You don't think we've looked? You don't think I've looked at the draft since 1991 till now in every one to see, to know? I mean, we've done how many shows?
1,130.
We do research, folks. And again, even before I did the show, this stuff was already in my head. It's what I did. The 90s especially, when Sports Center was at its peak. When sports was at its peak, I'm talking the talent. My God, the sportscasters, the color guys, the play-by-plays. I mean, you're talking the 90s had everything. The talent was top-notch. So imagine being around that. You knew everything, and you had the right people saying things. Now what you have is you have trash. They'll hire bums so they can fit a demographic so that everybody can be even. And what you get is shit piled onto shit, pile on the shit. And then now it's so piled on that now we accept the shit to be, I don't know, brownies. Tasty brownies? Well, it could be worse. Could be 50-day-old shit instead of 2-day-old shit, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It is. So what am I going to do? Am I going to go cry? I'm never going to watch this again. I'm going to boycott. No, I'm not going to boycott. I'm going to be right here pissing everybody off. So what? What else are you going to tell me? I'd really like to be proven wrong. I really would. Is JJ Redick going to be the, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Is he going to be the basketball whisperer? I hope so.
Before we continue, I wanted to go ahead and touch on something Adam was talking about because his positivity is lying in Christian Wood. I know that he was a big fan of the signing last year and wanted to get him on the roster. And I know we've had a little bit back and forth with his fascination on some of the big guys. I remember his fascination on Harry Giles III, if memory serves. But I will say for Christian Wood, if he does come back from the knee injury and the arthroscopic knee surgery that he had, he plays best, and Laker fans are holding out hope on this, Joe. If you look at his career, and I've been watching him since UNLV. Yeah, because he's, my family's gone to UNLV for the most part. So if that's the case, I've been watching him for quite a time before he even got to the NBA. Christian Wood excels in a time of desperation. When Milwaukee cut him and he was looking for a job and he was on the back end trying out, it was him and Joe Johnson trying for the last spot in Detroit. That's when he started to pick up whatever mentality he had. And not only did he make the roster, he ended up being a contributor to finally get him in a position where he became a decent rotation player. Then he became an even better rotation player. Then he got a fat contract. And you know what happens when you see these athletes, Joe? Stop me if you ever heard this before. He gets the fat contract and it all goes to hell ever since. Now he is in his last, possibly most desperate situation, one step out of the league, because his next stop could be Europe after this. This is going to probably be now or never for Christian Wood this season.
Yeah, I call it he Eric Dampiered. That's a recent contract year player who played out of his mind, only to pretty much turn into nothing after that. I think that Dampier was, if I remember correctly, he might have been, I think he was he wasn't the rebounding champ, but he was close. I think it was in 2004. It was 2004. He had like 12 rebounds, right? and you look at his average. Other than that year, he'd average 5, 6. He had a couple of 8s and some 7s, but never 12. But that was his contract year. So, yeah, the contract softens it. I think it happened to THT as well. THT got soft. He played his butt off, got a contract, was done. That happens a lot. That happens a lot, and it'll continue to happen as long as we're alive. There's always going to be those guys that are just playing for the money. And the Lakers have enough problems. I wish they didn't have to continue to hold guys that are not either fit for the NBA game or just not focused in general when they are out there for, a game-by-game basis. But that's the culture they've built here, guys. It's not – I would say they're all grown men. They all make their own choices, so I'm not just putting all the blame on the people up in management. But think about it for a second. I mean, look at how Jeannie and Rob have run this team and some of the things that are coming out. I've heard some stabs towards them saying, their video room is like a closet. You're talking about the LA Lakers. You're talking about a team that's could sell for $10 billion. You're talking about an owner who doesn't really who looks like someone who would run some kind of a nonprofit. She's not really a dynamo there. And then you have Rob Pelinka, who's a company mouth people who will say the right thing just to keep things at bay. So yeah, you have that kind of environment. Well, you're gonna breed players like Christian Wood and Reddish. I should say Reddick, maybe even down the road. We'll see. And then, of course, you've allowed LeBron James and his agency to run your team. And this is heaven for LeBron. LeBron wanted this in Cleveland, but Dan Gilbert wasn't giving it to him. Pat Riley was definitely not going to give it to him. But he found his home in L.A., and I think LeBron knew coming to L.A. that he'd have this power. I think that's why he came to L.A. It wasn't about the movies. No one's going to put LeBron in a movie unless he's playing himself. So everybody get out of that mentality of why he came to L.A. to be a movie star or a Hollywood guy. That ain't going to happen. Hollywood is you have no idea how constricted Hollywood is. And it doesn't matter if it's LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, doesn't matter any of those guys. Keep that steel door very, very tight. They'll let you have a little bit of a nibble, but nothing more. But LeBron is on cloud nine now. I bet you if you talk to him, sit down and talk to LeBron and say, hey, would you have wanted this particular setup 12 years ago? I think he'd say 100% yes. He'd say, yeah, I would love to have this kind of control over the organization, and then I would be able to, dictate terms. And you all know how important it is when players dictate terms. They bring in guys like Russell Westbrook and their children to come play with the team when the team needs talent.
There you go. But once again, it is Joe Soro and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for listening. Truly appreciate it. Samir, thanks so much again for being a new member. JSJ is now a member. Courtesy of Xbox. Truly appreciate you doing so. It's just $2.99. Get access to emojis, badges, and big shout-outs from us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. So truly appreciate you becoming members for us. Brian says LeBron knew the Lakers had young players he could smear and trade because they were young. So LeBron knew we had the Lakers young players he could smear and trade because they were young. I'm assuming that's when he came from a free agent when the Lakers had that young roster, he could manipulate him. Maybe he's
look, manipulating is not the right word when it comes to Anthony Davis. That is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean that got the Lakers a championship.
Yeah, you don't know that. I don't give anyone any credit for that one. No one, because that's like giving credit to New Orleans for drafting Anthony Davis #1. That's what you're supposed to do. There's no talent in that. You got lucky with some balls, and then here Anthony Davis is coming out. There is no talent to that. Anybody can do that. What would have been talent is if you got that first round pick through a trade from previous regimes or previous deals, and then you got it. Then I'd be like, man, look at that. It worked out perfect. There's only been one team that got close to that. And that was the Pistons in 2003. And they absolutely, Joe Dumars talk about taking a shit on themselves. My God. Just draft Carmelo Anthony, you dumb shit. You probably would have won 3 championships instead of 1. But anyways, point is, I am not going to give any of these chumps credit for signing LeBron James outright and trading for Anthony Davis. That's an easy one. That's an easy one. Shaq in 96. Maybe it wasn't easy to get him, but it's still Shaq. Now, what was great is he got Kobe in that draft. He got Derek Fisher in that draft. He got Robert Horry, and I'm talking about Jerry West. He got Robert Horry a year later. He got Rick Fox to take less money a year later, and then just kept building and building and building. He got Horace Grant down the road. He got Ron Harper. He got Phil Jackson. That, guys, is how you build a championship team. After that, Mitch Kupchak, Trevor Ariza, Pau Gasol.
You're awesome.
Drafted Andrew Bynum, who, yes, I know he didn't fulfill his talent, but damn it, he did help us win 2 championships and was an all-star in 2012 and helped us get Dwight Howard, even though it didn't work out, but he was a major cog in doing that.
Did you hear what his latest comments were today? Because back in 2022, he tried out for the WWE. And he was talked, I guess according to Triple H, I guess an offer was there. Or if he wants to go and do it, it was up to him and go even more. But Ric Flair talked him out of it regarding, the fact it's, hard on your knees and things of that nature. And I guess he took a longer look at it, due to the lifestyle that it is. And obviously the work that you need to do in the ring, and thought different of it. And what happened since the Taiwanese, the basketball league, the court issues, Dancing with the Stars. There you go.
Is Dwight Howard hurting for money?
I don't think he is as good financial position as we would have assumed he would be at this stage of his career. Let's just put it that way.
Usually when you see guys boxing each other in some exhibition jerk off, it's usually because the money isn't there, right? Mm-hmm. Guys like Le'Veon Bell fighting. Now, Floyd Mayweather might be an exception, which is even more embarrassing.
Well, why is that lady, the one that's already been convicted by the feds, has to wear the ankle bracelet? Why is she competing, in Dancing with the Stars? I'm assuming it's because the feds want some money from her some way, or, for performing. So that's probably the only answer I can think of. When it comes right down to it, the answer is usually always money.
Yeah, it is. People will sell their family for it, compromise their relationships for it, slaves to it. Scumbags, weak scumbags. I have no respect for people who value money to the point where they will put a rift between family and friends. I have no respect for you people, and you people are the reason why things go bad in any country. It's not just America. All the problems that we have is usually derived from inner turmoil, from a family, a group, a community, due to its greed and its stupidness. And that's something that also needs to be reiterated 100 times. It's not the president's fault. It's not some guy in 1960 who made some rules fault. It's your fault. You created it. And you look at sports, and what's great about sports is when you're in between that court and that field and that diamond, none of that matters because you're trying to win. That's why winning is a great thing to have. That's why competition is so healthy, because it takes your mind off the stupid bullshit, at least for a little bit. You can't, right? Look at Paul Allen. Look at what, God rest his soul, look what Paul Allen did for so long. And he had great teams. Couldn't beat Shaq and Kobe. He had all the money in the world. Look at Ballmer, all the money in the world. Couldn't keep Paul George from leaving his hometown to go to Philly. Money is, yeah, if you're talking about not having to worry about bills, sure. But man, money brings in a whole different realm of things that you don't even think about. And what it brings is, let's use Dwight Howard as an example. Dwight Howard has to go to Taiwan to play. Dwight Howard has to contemplate being a wrestler. This is a guy that is a Hall of Famer waiting to happen, a guy that should have been on the 75 all-time team, by the way, and has made probably $200 million in his career. Yet he's got to degrade himself by saying, hey, I'm going to go into some sport or some event and make a fool out of myself, or go play in a league to make a fool out of myself. I understand going international if you can't compete in the NBA, but do you really go after your back is kaput and you can't play anymore, really? I think that's stupid. And he's massively immature. He's always been immature. He's got a identity crisis, apparently. Every time they ask him questions about his personal stuff that came out, he's always saying the same stupid line like, hey, it's none of anybody's business. Well, asshole, why are you on a freaking talk show then? What do you think they're going to ask you? How do you plant your flowers at home? This is the part that the venom comes out. I don't like someone saying something and I'm looking at what they're doing and it's different. Stop insulting my intelligence. If you're telling me you're a rose, yet you're acting like a tulip, why the hell am I going to like anything you say or respect you? And that's the story of the Lakers. They're telling us things that are not happening because they're full of shit like most people. Most people are full of shit. They just don't want confrontation. They don't want anything. And the moment they get any kickback, it's, oh, well, they're haters or they're jealous or they're over. Yeah, in most cases they are. But what about the ones that are not jealous of you and your money and your bullshit? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'd rather be me than any one of these motherfuckers, man. I'll be honest. Not LeBron, not Genie, not Rob. I wouldn't pay a dime to be those people. I'd rather be me. And they have more money than me, more prestige, more fame, right? Wouldn't pay a dime. But the majority of people out there will, if not more than that. Yeah, I love Paul too, man. I wish we had the podcast in the late 2000s. I really do. You would have seen. I would have pissed people off in a different way. I'd be talking smack, saying, "How'd you guys like that double burger that Powell just served you? How'd you like Kobe dropping that 3-point shot against Miami off the backboard? Man, that's what I was doing, but I just wasn't doing it on a podcast. Man, those were good times."
Little do we know that would have been great because would have been on an infancy of YouTube. We would have been one of the first channels covering basketball, the NBA, and the Lakers. And
it's funny.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
It's funny you bring that up. The whole thing with crypto, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, crypto is, people laugh when they hear the word crypto. And I had a friend of mine 3 years ago tell me, Joe, put some money in a couple of these things here and just sit back and wait. And a lot of us hear about things way, way early, but we don't pay attention to it. And then all of a sudden, boom. Just like Joe Rogan. I like to use the Joe Rogan thing. Joe Rogan podcast didn't have an audience for 5 years. His friends were making fun of him. Like, what are you doing this for? No one's watching it.
That's true, Kurt. I would have made some great. Remember Vines?
Yeah,
remember Vines? Yeah. Kurt said I would have made some great Vines. Yeah, I would. Yes, I would. Back in the day, absolutely. Like you said, late 2000s, early 2010s. Man, could have started this channel sooner.
Yeah, it would have been nice. At that time, I was doing radio, but that would have meant going somewhere to a radio station and having to deal with radio producer and commercials, and it couldn't really be me here. I'd have to. I mean, there've been radio guys that have been outlandish, but I don't know. I don't think I would have lasted anyways. Either way.
So let me ask you this before we head on out, my friend. With the Lakers already getting bit by the injury bug, is it? I mean, we've seen it before where it just starts and it rolls downhill with repeated injuries. And don't say I told you so or it's my fault. If any other, that's superstition stuff. That it's garbage. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But when it comes to injuries on the Lakers, I mean, you're not even in training camp yet, Joe, and we already have 2 major injuries to start the season for the rotation. That does not bode well to start off with as far as trying to figure out what is your rotation, especially for a first-year head coach who hasn't even coached at any level outside of the 4th grade.
It's too late. The Lakers don't have any leverage. They don't have any assets worth throwing out there. They would have to give up what little assets they have in the future to get anything of semblance, any talent that would matter. We have to roll. The Lakers fans are going to have to roll with what they have here. There's nothing they can do unless they give up either talent that they have, which is the Ruiz, the Reeves, and the D'Angelos, and then they're going to have to add a draft pick somewhere, which in that situation, which of those 3 would likely be with 2 out of the 3, let's say, and then they'd have to add maybe one of the first-round picks. Who would they be able to get for those guys? Who would be that 3rd guy that they could trade for that'd be like, oh, whoa, if the Lakers can just stay healthy everywhere else, they might be able to make a run with these 3 guys. That's the only hope that would transform. But who is that 3rd player?
I know we got comments from YouTube viewers after our show when we talked about Zach LaVine, and he's just not that guy. 29, bad knees. He was once that guy, Joe, but I think that guy is come and gone.
The trades for Grant and LaVine are not about, I have to say this again, they are not about competing. They are about accumulating assets. They're 2 terrible contracts. And as of right now, it might be a leverage pool by Portland and Chicago where they're saying, oh, no, you're going to have to give us draft picks. No, stupid. No, you want to get rid of those contracts. You are going to have to give first-round picks. Chicago definitely 2 has to come out of that. And Portland probably 2. But if you add in maybe Simons in there, I'd be willing to take 1.
Simons and Williams. What about a package? If you're going to,
I don't trust Williams. Williams is too injury prone. I don't want him.
You don't want him at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
If he stays healthy, though,
we can't afford
listen, hear me out. If he stays healthy to the trade deadline and he's still on Portland, he's going to be a major trade target for a lot of those teams if he stays healthy to the trade deadline. So I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Joe. I just want to go ahead with that.
I don't believe Rob Pelinka is capable of doing anything, honestly.
Good point, Kurt. He said there's a reason why no one else has bit on LaVine or Grant yet.
Well, they're not biting because Chicago and Portland, from reports that I've heard, is they want draft picks for those guys, which is asinine to even think that makes any sense.
And them not getting a draft pick for Caruso on top of getting Giddey.
I mean, that's just because they think Giddey is going to be a better player, and he can be. He will end up being probably a better player. So that was a talent. OKC traded Giddey because I think they've got too many. They've got a lot of good players on Oklahoma City, yet they do need a specialist, which is what Caruso was. But I hope Presti did this before. I hope he didn't make a mistake there too down the road. If Giddey ends up being an all-star,
he's got to shoot better.
Presti would be kind of what happened with the first time.
Well, you'll get Xbox to agree with you on that, Joe.
It's not about, I mean, I appreciate that. Mark and I are, in tune anyways, but Giddey is a good player. He can ball. And there was a little bit of distraction this last year that I thought was unnecessary, given the research I did. I thought that was, I don't understand what the deal was with
He's
that.
a better regular season player, Xbox. I'll give you that. But in the playoffs, you saw the defense wasn't there. He was exploited and he was singled out. He lost his starting position in the playoff run. And he's got to play better defense and shoot better when it counts. I think he'll be a much better player, I think, in the regular season. But in the postseason, I want Alex Caruso's clutch play, his clutch shooting, and most importantly, his defense on the ball more than I need what Giddey brings me, especially on that Oklahoma City team. Plus Hartenstein on top of that.
Presti is going to have to show a championship at some point.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you there, Joe. I definitely agree with you there.
And it's got to probably happen in the next couple of years.
Before the rise of Wembanyama. Because
Wembanyama, well, the thing with Wembanyama is I'm trying to figure out what San Antonio is going to do. I haven't liked what they've done the last few years. I haven't liked how they've run the team.
Well, as I showed you on the stat, they've got a lot of draft picks going forward. I know that they still, like you said, they got a lot of ways to it that they can improve.
Look, R.C. Buford, one of the greats. Obviously, Prep Popovich, one of the greats. But you also have to understand, folks, those guys have been at it for a very long time. It might be time for them to groom the next guy.
And like you said, Oklahoma City's got to do it soon because all those young kids, Joe, are going to be up for extensions in the not too distant future. And they will get expensive just like Boston and Phoenix are now.
And the NBA wants mediocrity like the NFL.
And you remember, you mentioned it last week, they gave up on Harden because he got too expensive for them.
It wasn't by that much, too. That's the sad part. And I think it had more to do with the fact that he had a horrible finals. If he had a decent finals, I think they would have given him the max. And then that whole story between Oklahoma City and Golden State would have been completely different. You would have probably had a San Antonio Laker type back and forth between Golden State and Oklahoma City. Durant would have won a championship in my book, in my feel. In Oklahoma. Okay, imagine Harden on that 2016 team. They beat Golden State that year for sure, and they probably beat him in 2015.
What a difference that would have made. Harden wouldn't have that reputation that he has now, and
look. I'm not trying to dog on Presti, but that's life. Life.
It wasn't Presti. Maybe it wasn't Presti's call.
There's a great line.
He doesn't own the team, Joe.
I know. There's a great line. There's a great line in Entourage, the TV show, where Turtle, one of the main characters, says to Ari Gold. Ari Gold's the super agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based off a real agent named Ari Emanuel. He goes to Ari, he goes, Ari, and you're never wrong, right? And then he looks at Turtle and he goes, until I'm not. And when you watch the show, Ari was never wrong. It was the movie stars and the management of that crew that never listened to Ari. Ari knew what he was doing. Ari always knew what he was doing. I think he only screwed up one thing where there was a scene between, how vulgar he was versus, whatever. But in terms of the business side of things, he was always right. And that's what made the show. The fact that they never listened to Ari, it seemed like it created the drama. Coincidentally, of course, one of the characters' name is Drama, right? But even through all that, he had one of his guys finally just say, Ari, and you're never wrong. And Ari's his immediate answer is until I'm not. And that's what it is, folks. That's how brutal life is. You could be great. You could be great. You could be the Buffalo Bills and just be Jim Kelly, Andre Reed, Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett, Daryl Talley, Nate Odoms. You have talent. I mean, if the Bills had won a championship, how they would look exactly like the West New York version of the Dallas Cowboys. But they didn't. And they were looked completely different than the guys in Dallas with the Aikmans. And
Curtis Fair says Thurman Thomas.
Heck, even their backup running back was good. And so much talent on the Buffalo Bills team. So much talent. Hall of Famers up and down. But because they didn't win that last game, they're looked on as losers. That's how brutal life is. So Presti, while he's not the Bills, all this amazing draft accumulation, right? What has it produced in terms of the ultimate prize? Nothing yet. And he's going to need to do that. And, of course, you have someone like Presti who's got 500 times more talent than the douchebag that runs the Lakers, yet that asshole has a title. That's how brutal life is.
Some comments from the crowd before we go. Darren is saying if the Lakers beat Denver in the playoffs, he said shots. I'm going to have to invite Joe to take some shots with me. And then he follows it up by saying, Joe's had a car racing shirt on, or did you have a Cub Scout meeting? And Brian, I guess he's going to respond to that now. Brian said, D'Lo has struggled against Denver. The Lakers should be able to make adjustments to help him be more effective. The Lakers usually win when D'Lo plays well. This is D'Lo's final season, most likely with the Lakers, because he becomes a free agent. There's no chance to sign him to extension or anything like that. He's not eligible for one. He is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Does he stick it out through the entire year with the team?
Who?
D'Lo. You can't extend him. He's going to
likely he sticks unless somebody really wants him and the Lakers are willing to give up some draft picks for another player.
Do you believe what Brian was saying in regards to as far as the adjustments are concerned? The Lakers should be able to make adjustments to help him be more effective. The Lakers usually win.
No, there will be no adjustments to help him.
Okay.
He's not that kind of player, and JJ Redick would have to show us that, which I don't know. What's JJ Redick going to pull out of D'Angelo Russell's repertoire, make him better at what? Make shots against Denver when it matters? Play better defense? No, I don't see those things happening. D'Angelo can't cover Jamal Murray. No one on the Lakers can cover him. So now what? Are you going to magically create a defensive scheme that helps stop him? Okay, well, are you going to convince me that he's going to make LeBron play defense? LeBron hasn't played defense for 5 years. And when he doesn't get his way, he plays less defense because he just lets his guys die on a 4-on-5 break. Is JJ going to fix that? Those are the things I'm going to look for. Is he going to yell at LeBron James on the court in front of the whole world if LeBron is Cadillacing at least 2 or 3 times a game? That's what I'm interested in. I'll have a lot of respect for JJ Redick if he tries to coach this team and keeps people accountable and it still doesn't work. Because then at least we'll be able to solidify at 100% that Mr. LeBron James can't be coached and will never in any way be the greatest of all time, because greatest of all time players don't play for 11 coaches. Sorry, that doesn't happen.
Last but certainly not least, the latest news around the world of sports. I guess you could relate it to sports is as Xbox, one of our greatest members. And thank you so much for gifting all those memberships during the course of the broadcast. Xbox, we're indebted to you as always. Truly appreciate it. Joe, did you hear about Unc Sheshe, Mr. Shannon Sharp, and his very revealing Instagram post that he says is not done personally, but that he was hacked. That's the first thing you always say is you're hacked. So
What do you say?
can you look this up because it gets very touchy. There's a
When did this happen?
earlier today.
Shannon Sharp.
To say Shannon Sharp, yeah. So there was a sex tape. I'll say this at the end of the show. Sorry for anybody taking their kid to school or anything like that. That was put on his Instagram account. So,
and it's him.
I'm assuming as such. I have not seen this tape. I was just alerted to it by Xbox. I'd heard briefly, but I didn't get to check into it. I heard like a few hours ago when I was driving my kids.
Okay, I'll research this, and again, I don't want to discuss.
Do research.
Look, Shannon Sharp is a chode and a half. He's always been a chode and a half. But he was a great player, and he could always cover his chodeness by his play.
No, I have no interest in viewing it at all. Okay, so I'm just made aware of it by Xbox. That's all.
We're watching. I was watching the Nebraska-Colorado game Saturday, and
it's audio only. Okay, Xbox. Okay,
I'm not gonna watch it, Jay. Don't worry, I don't watch that stuff.
You asked Xbox. That's all I know.
No, it's good. It's okay. It's good. You know, we're here to. It's sports.
Yeah, Xbox asked us to talk about it, so we're talking about it. Then you get roasted for talking about it.
Look, Shannon Sharp is a chode and a half. He's always been a chode. For those of you who don't know what a chode is, it's a club dick. And you look at the talent that's here in today's media sports world, and you don't need to look far to find out who the popular people are, and a lot of them are just double chodes. I don't watch the Skip Baylesses. I don't watch Shannon Sharp. I can't listen to those guys for more than 5 minutes. Stephen A. Smith sometimes is okay, but after a while, I think his shtick is done, much like most people's shtick is done. I used to love watching Colin Cowherd until about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it got old. His stuff got old. Plus, he started getting everything wrong. He used to be right on everything, and now he's wrong on everything. I listened to Jim Rome a few years back. I hadn't listened to him in probably a decade, and it's the same show. Jesus Christ. I don't know. Maybe it's funny because for me, I'm wanting something different, right? Yet I'm called an old man for not liking things. I'm like, I want new shit, but I don't want shit either. Shannon Sharp is shit. Skip Bayless is shit. And then you have the Jim Romes and the Colin Cowards who are the same shit. Why don't they put Dennis Scott on something? He's amazing in terms of basketball. I've watched whatever he's talking about. He's phenomenal. Why aren't they promoting guys like that? So they gotta have the underbite yapper, which is what Shannon Sharp is, and now we have to discuss this. And the thing is, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to say this, folks. This is a guy that had like 5 kids with 4 different women. I have no respect for people like that in general. I have no respect for you. Zero. You're a deadbeat to me when you do things like that. I'm very, very stern on when it comes to a family structure. If you're going to have a family structure, do it right, because that's another reason why a lot of this garbage that's going on is happening, because the family structure has gone to shit. And it doesn't help creating things that aren't stable. This is a grown man with kids, and now his kids have to see this. So, Shannon Sharp, trash. Oh, to me, he's... Ugh. And somebody needs to punch Antonio Brown in the face, like hard. I mean hard. I'm talking, it might not even be the knockout punch. I'm talking like right here, like this. I don't know if it'll joggle his CTE or if that's probably all bullshit, by the way, because I've been around the Steeler world a lot with him. That guy was an asshole 10 years ago. He was an asshole 15 years ago. He's an asshole now. He's just more vocal about it. But that motherfucker needs to get punched in the face, seriously, for some of the stuff that he's been saying. Seriously, somebody needs to knock that motherfucker out. That guy's a piece of shit. Sorry, I had to let that out.
In your opinion, of course. In your opinion.
No, that's not an opinion. That's fact. He is a piece of shit. Not literal, obviously, but he's a piece of shit. Some of this last thing he said was just at this point, I'm just like, dude, you got to go. You got to get done. That's it. That's. I didn't make him say it. Sorry.
Before we head on out, my friend, on a little bit more serious note, Sunday asked us to go ahead and reflect on this day of that we need to remember, 9/11, one of the most tragic days in American history here. Where were you 23 years ago, 9/11? I just make it explicit. I just now make.
I was in bed. My buddy Josh called me. And he said, turn on your TV. He was like the third guy who told me to turn on my TV, except the first two were text messages. It was, I didn't really kind of comprehend what was going on. Initially, there was one plane, and then the second plane had just hit. So it was coming out that, hey, this is an attack. And then I went to a bar that night, and it didn't look like too many people were distraught. They were still drinking, doing whatever. But the next day it became serious when the building fell.
I can tell you for me, because I was working 3 jobs at the time, and I was working at one of my jobs was a graveyard shift, working at a local casino here. And as I was working it was like early in the morning. And then people were like shouting, hey, look at this. So we went over to the bar, and of course we have big screens at the bar at the casino we were at. And it just, you could start to see it. And it was like, oh man, this is not good. This is not good at all. And then I went home, and that time I had DirecTV, and I had a ton of channels. And I'll tell you, with the access to those channels on DirecTV, I got to see news from around the country and news stations around the country I had access to, and really, really was very informative for me as far as that's concerned, but also very sad because I got to see, it replayed again and again and again throughout the day. They were showing the horrors, they were reporting it live, and I was just sitting there on my couch. I had the rest of the day off, and I was just so devastated. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I was just curled up there on the couch, and I was just so sad because seeing it from every perspective, from the East Coast local stations to the major news networks to the central to I was checking every time zone and seeing how they were perceiving it, and it was all the same, and it was just so sad. To me, I just felt like I aged 10 years in one day, and it was just, my heart still bleeds for all the people that were affected by 9/11.
I couldn't understand why they were making everybody climb the stairs. That was a death trap. I know that they wanted to save people. I understood that, but you're asking people to go up 150 stories to go save people. It didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense to me. I'm not saying don't help, but a lot of firemen died that day that I think they shouldn't have died. And it's a beautiful thing at the same time where they were trying to help, and they were selfless, and they were, but I felt like people were coming down who could come down. I didn't think it needed more people to get into the way and help too. It was a lost, in a lot of ways, it was a lost cause. And I felt like a lot of firemen died that night that shouldn't have died.
I still get choked up like we do with Kobe. I still get choked up when I think about that entire day. It really is.
What it did was it was the death of In a lot of
Sorry
ways,
to
it
hear
was.
that, Samir, because he
In a
says he
lot,
knew someone who passed away in one of the towers.
yeah, in a lot of ways, it was the beginning of our freedom kind of dwindling. Remember when we would be able to meet people at the airport at the gate.
Yeah.
Um,
Changed everything, Joe.
it changed a lot of things, and
I mean, Southwest. I used to fly Southwest all the time in the '90s and early 2000s, Joe. I literally, well, just before 2000, before September 11th, and you could literally go on the plane on a Southwest just before the door closed. Literally, just get to the airport, just run to your plane and get on. Yeah, that all changed with 9/11.
they got what they wanted. And I say the enemy got tired of the imperialists. And they were able to sneak one in there. And the other issue with this is the conspiracy theories. Just like the moon landing, everything is a conspiracy, not everything is a lie, because there's money involved in it. Yeah, America lost a lot of its beauty that day, and we've never really recovered in a lot of ways. And I hate the fact that they have one building there. I was there in New York last year, and beautiful memorial, absolutely beautiful memorial. I mean, we were in there for 2.5 hours, and I could have been in there for 4 hours if I just walked a little slower and read everything, but I was with family. And I said to my wife at that time, I said, hey, when we come back, I want to go read all this. I mean, some of the stuff was amazing. You were listening to CBs and recordings, and you had things sticking from the walls from the actual building. It was, in terms of the memorial, it was phenomenal. But I would have built 2 more towers, maybe even 10 more floors, 10 more stories on top, just to give that, and maybe the one building was to do this, which would make sense. But I would have built 2 more and had them go a little higher, just to stick it to the enemy. And whether that was a retaliation, whether it wasn't, anytime you kill anybody that's innocent is never really just. But it was a reminder to America that you can have all the money in the world and all the resources, but if you let your guard down, the little mouse can come in and screw everything up for you.
Samir says he was there summer of 2000, spent so much time in the towers. He went to the windows on the world. I would have loved, believe me, I would have loved to have gone and experienced the Twin Towers and just the sheer awesomeness of it. I was never blessed to do so. And unfortunately, all those lives that were lost needlessly, and just truly a tragic time for us, 9/11, something we will never forget. One of the most darkest days in American history, and hopefully it could at least serve as a reminder, as far as maybe we should try to work better towards each other. Maybe we should try to seek out, as far as for those who try to do us harm, and as far as just please just choose a better path to those who, if you don't like America, you don't like America. I get that. Whatever. That's your choice. I love America. I love being here. I love the USA. But if you don't like America, please, that doesn't mean you're going to have to take those unnecessary steps and kill needlessly. There's no point behind it. There's no meaning, and there's no purpose of it. And it's just lives lost and nothing to show for it. So it was just
back to the structure, the community structure, the family structure. We don't value that anymore. It seems like society doesn't value it. There's more jokes and
memes and all that.
There's more jokes. Oh, my ex-wife. My ex-husband. Children. Family dinners. After a while, the joke doesn't become a joke anymore. Now it's starting to get real. And there's a 60% divorce rate now in America. When you have a 60% divorce rate, that means the family is broken. And more often than not, those families have children. And now children are in an environment where there's a lack of trust. Kids stop trusting when they're in divorced arenas. This is not coming from me. This is coming from people in the social worker world, right? And when you have that continue to pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on, eventually, again, it's going to start affecting things. So my advice on trying to keep things well is you set the family dynamic first. That's in your control. Home that's safe. Protect your children, protect your wife, protect your spouse. Then you get out your house and you protect your neighbors. You become good friends with your neighbors. Then protect your town. Then you protect and you protect as you keep going. You want to create that setup. And I can truly say that I have, the process has worked here. I have phenomenal neighbors that are like my family, and people in the town are great. The schools have been great. My kids learn. My kids are smart. My kids are involved in activities, and their parents, their friends' parents, and they love the kids and they love the environment. They love the games that they're playing, if it's football, basketball. That's what this is supposed to be about. I think more of that's happening more than we talk about. We always talk about the bad because people the bad lasts longer than the good, and the good doesn't sound as good as the bad because the bad gets your endorphins going in a different way. And then looking at 9/11, it's just a bigger area, right? All over the world, you have people who have an ideology, and I know a lot about this being a Middle Eastern guy. I'm going to tell you right now, folks, and you can call me whatever you want. Middle Eastern people are the most stubborn species that have probably ever lived on this planet. And man, do they want things to stay the same. You think your uncle in Missouri hates kids now and hates this generation? Not even close to the guys over there. Those guys want curved swords back. That's how bad they want it. And if you mess with that, you're going to start getting kickback. And it's been like that for a very long time. And you're seeing what's going on right now in Israel and in Palestine, Israel, and the Gazas and Hamas. Folks, I'm sorry to say this and to burst your bubble if it's there. This son of a gun has been going on for a long
Decades.
time, and it's probably never gonna end. And
I agree with you there.
So Joe, I highly recommend you all educate yourself and truly understand. I'm not saying not to do something or to support, but when this thing broke out last year, it was one of these things. I'm like,
it's an extension of what have been taking place already for decades.
Because you knew what's going to happen. You knew there was going to be this. There's this tribal one versus one mentality. It needs to stop. That needs to stop. It's very similar to our political parties too. You can't live like this. There's no such thing as this guy's wrong all the way and this guy's right all the way. It's impossible. So 9/11 happened 23 years ago, and we still are not learning from it. We're not learning from it because human beings don't want to learn. They want to feel now. And the feel has gone to a whole different dimension now. Now, if you feel like you are something, we're supposed to accept it. And if you don't, there's some kind of bigotry involved. This is not going to advance anything. This is going to make things much worse. Sorry. It's just not. And you can blame it on religion. You can blame it on ethnicity. You can blame it on whatever. The common denominator, folks, is human beings. Look at that.
What is the old saying, Joe? If we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it.
And we will, because a lot of people say, well, we'll do it better this time. No, you won't. You will not. Adam and Eve, The story of Adam and Eve. Okay, folks, there was 2 people on this planet at one point, according to the Adam and Eve story, and they still screwed it up. So you want 8 billion people to figure it out all together? Yeah. Good luck. Enjoy your life. Stop worrying about everything.
Samir, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your memories.
Yes, welcome, Samir.
Thank you for being a member.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk more. Again, Samir sounds like, according to his last name, I think there's some Middle Eastern descent there as well. We have a couple of people here from Australia as well, Samir. So we'll talk more and, seeing, putting together the cultures and all the different experiences everybody has.
Let's hope we can all come together at some point and just, again, like I said, like Joe said, learn.
Is an atheist really an atheist? Because that's a belief too. Huh, Mark?
He's got a point there.
There's a funny line in Along Came Polly when they're on a boat and it's crashing, and Ben Stiller says to Jennifer Aniston's character, you are on a plan. She's like, I'm not on a plan. He's like, yeah, you're on the non-plan plan. And she goes, I'm not on a non-plan plan. So, Mark, you're on a non-religion religion. How about that?
There you go.
I can't believe we were able to talk about this without Gerald having a heart attack. This is a good thing.
I think there are certain days, Joe, certain times, certain things that we can touch on at our memories. And Samir asked, and I thought that was a respectful request. And they want to know more about us and what makes us tick. And you're in your 40s, I'm in my 50s, and we've lived a life. We've lived, and we have experiences, both good and bad, that we've gone through. And they want to know what makes us tick and why we're here. And we give you all that and more. And we just hope that helps you out there become a better part of our Lakers Fast Break community as we continue to try and grow it. If you see someone out there that you think might like what we do, let them know about us. It truly would be great because, again, we see all these other Lakers shows now getting 10, 20,000 subscribers and whatnot. We'd like to be one of them too. We'd like to be in that sphere and be able to go ahead and say we are truly one of the best out there, like we think we are already. So I will say this again, Brian, I would love the world of Star Trek. I would love that universe where, wars internally on the planet and the whole 9 yards, that whole world that Gene Roddenberry envisioned for Earth before they started heading out into the stars. But I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. Not in my lifetime, that's for sure.
When I look at the original Star Wars movies, I think what was a beautiful. Imagine, like, even today in 2024, with all technology that we've seen, the Transformers and all these amazing CGI stuff that's been created, Jurassic Park. I watched the originals and I'm like, man, you feel like this is real. Like this planet is real. That was the genius of George Lucas at that time, where he wanted things to look used, right? Whereas before he would say all these sci-fi movies, everything looked like it was all brand new. This is a universe or galaxies that have been around for trillions of years. It's a bunch of nice stuff with a bunch of just trash and a bunch of weird people and a bunch of weird looking guys and a bunch of cool looking guys. Like he made a 2-hour movie look real. Like it made the universe look real. And to me, that's for those who hate Hollywood, and you have every right to hate, especially with what those guys do to people. Why we keep coming back is we love the fantasy. We love the storytelling. We love that entrenching ourselves in this world and imagining. That's the thing, is it peeks into it ticks into your imagination. I think that's, and that goes with anybody. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter how much they hate. People know movies. People know who these people are. The main actors, the producers, the directors. because they created such amazing things. Robin Williams, God rest his soul. You know, they're like, well, why do you care about this guy so much? I go, this guy was in my home for 20 years. We watched him my family laughed. We laughed. Kobe's another example. Kobe was in my house more than my family members. Yeah, he was on TV, but he was there. And he was there, and he put every ounce of his energy in making sure that we weren't going to regret him being on there. Him making us sit for 2.5 hours and watching him play. On a January night after an AFC championship, an NFC championship game, it still mattered. That's to me what greatness is.
Darren, I disagree with you in the fact that they could have kept the RDJ reveal a secret because it's just a voiceover role. So you could just literally just have the Russos who are directing, Kevin Feige, and RDJ in a room doing the voiceovers. No one else could have didn't need to know or anything like that until the time is right. And again, I don't like the fact that they revealed it either. I thought that was kind of not the smartest way. I think it's Marvel getting desperate to try and regain some of its mojo back now that they have Deadpool and Wolverine in the can going forward. I just thought they should have saved that for the end as a big reveal. I don't mind that he's going to be Doctor Doom. I just didn't want to know. I did not want to know. I wanted to be surprised. It's rare we get surprises, and this could have been a surprise because again, it's just a voiceover role, unless until he takes off his mask as Doctor Doom. So yeah, I just thought that was disappointing. But anyways, need I digress? How long can you keep it secret in Secret Wars? I just want to get it to the Avengers 5. Secret Wars would have been Avengers 6, so he would have been revealed by then. Richard says, aren't they messing with Iron Man's legacy? I understand, especially as far as his death, one of the greatest deaths in movie history. I really get that, Richard, and I know how emotional it was. I was in the theater 2 times within the first 7 days, and one of the times I actually heard audible sobbing from people when Iron Man died. You could hear people crying and screaming no in the theater when he died. So I get that. It does tarnish it a bit, but I mean, again, it depends how they play it out. If they play it out masterfully as far as a variable of Tony Stark, it could be something where it could be creative, and that's what they got to do. It's like I said, I wish it should have been just like a big reveal at the end of Avengers 5, and everybody just going like, because that shock factor would have been there. But I don't know if they don't need RDJ to sell tickets, but obviously Disney is concerned about selling tickets. It tells me there's a level of concern going forward. So maybe they feel they need RDJ to sell tickets for Marvel. So.
Disney's image is, in my book, as in really bad shape right now. They've alienated so many people the last 5 to 10 years from their.
Well, you say that, Joe, but their movies have earned more money this year than anyone else.
Earning money based off of box office numbers can be misleading. They may be making $800 million on a project, but are they spending more?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously the costs are going to be.
Yeah, you're not doing well when you're laying off people left and right. I'm sorry, that means you're struggling, and that means you're cutting costs so that you go get your bonuses. I don't consider that Disney's going to continue to do those corporations like that are going to continue to do things like that and still flourish. But then, at what point are you going to fall? Like, isn't Time Warner or Warner Brothers $40 billion in debt? Something like that. 20 billion in debt, 4 billion. It's something in the billions. How are you in debt that much money? And everything they touch and everything they try to create goes to crap. 90% of the time now. At some point, are they? They're still afloat, right? Because of their name. Yeah. I don't know. I don't. Nothing makes sense anymore. You can still suck ass and still bring in an audience and make money, apparently. The NFL is the prime example of that. I thought the product was so pathetic this week. I
didn't stop the ratings, Joe.
It didn't stop the ratings because no one cares. They care about, and they got the bettors in there. The bettors are all they care about. They don't give a damn about me. They don't give a damn about anyone. We're all extra on that. They don't give a shit about us. They care about the money. And the players, with all their self-righteousness, yeah, sure. You only care about the money too.
Once again, it is Joe Soro, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. JSJ says Marvel's rushing to Doomsday and Secret Wars. They should have spent more time in building up the characters. Well, they had years to do that, but they didn't get their act straight. And then the X-Men characters, they finally got the rights back to it. They didn't do a good job of building up those characters with all the movies that they put out over the past few years. So now I guess it's, they're on a limited time frame with a limited number of options. They're not allowed to go ahead and put out, maybe they don't want to, and maybe they're not. Yeah, they're, again, in this case, less is more, I guess, in Bob Iger's eyes, as far as limiting the number of TV shows and movies you're going to put out until then. So yeah, they could have used more time in building up the characters leading into Avengers 5 and 6, but I'm hoping that next year we're going to see maybe 4. I don't know. We'll see if the Blade movie comes into existence, but maybe 4 Marvel movies, and that may set the tone going forward. But yeah, next year is a very pivotal year for Marvel. I'll say that, but because they're desperate. JSJ, they're kind of mixed results on the directing end since the Avengers. I get it, but their producing end, they did produce a Academy Award winning movie and Everything Everywhere All at Once. So a little bit of that, but once again, it is Joe Soro, me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. We truly appreciate it. If anything comes up for tomorrow, as far as a good subject to talk about, I will be back along with Joe to talk to you about the Lakers. If anything news wise comes up, Joe, any last thoughts before we head on out?
Hopefully we can get back to actual footage of basketball and start talking about things that we're actually seeing.
We're close, Joe. We're close. We're less than a month away from the first exhibition game. So, yes. But then you're going to hear more people talking about how Bronny is this and Bronny is that. Then it's going to raise
I can ignore that. I'm not too worried about it. I haven't been watching a lot of the pre-post stuff, really. I'm more focused on watching the games. And I'm just focused on that. There's not going to be a choice. He can't play in the NBA. You can't have him out there. So when they do have him out there, they'll probably put him out there when they're up 15 points with 2 minutes left or some stupid stuff like that. But that guy can't play in the NBA. That guy's going to destroy you. You'll be playing 4-on-5 every game. There's no way. So that's why I'm not really too concerned about it as things progress here. It's not going to be a regular thing.
That's a good question, Sunday. I know you. It was never getting the kind of numbers that we were hoping it would be for Lakers History 101. But I think we should have a Lakers History 101. That and the quiz show. I'd love to do the quiz show again, but it was just never getting the numbers that I was hoping it would be. It never caught on the way I liked to be honest and be frank, but seemed like you guys that were watching it seem to have fun with it. So we'll do a Lakers History 101 next week for you. We'll go back to class. Kurt says before we head on out, Joe will ignore Bronny like he ignores Cool Bro. That's true, probably.
And I ignore Cool Bro because he's a child. And you don't get affected by children.
JSJ, I wish you could do that too, my friend, because he brought you a lot of stress today. I'm sorry that happened. They had a little blow up in the chat room. Best Lakers chat room that's out there.
And we can sit here and we can baby the teenagers.
It was actually a fight over Jonathan Isaac versus Jared Vanderbilt. So,
well, at least it was basketball related.
Yeah.
Good, finally.
But I would take Isaac. As long as his knees are upright, I would take Isaac over Vanderbilt. That would be my personal choice. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Truly want to thank you so much for sticking with us. An hour and 50 minutes in. Joe Soro and I will be back as soon as some Laker news hits, or we think of a good subject to talk about with you guys. Will the Lakers stay healthy? That's the key. It is the UCLA Health Center, for God's sakes, in El Segundo. It still pisses me off, Joe, because I drive by there. I go to the Lakers store right next to it, and I already told you my 2 trips there have been underwhelming because they don't really have much there to offer. But it's so depressing when you just go right down the street and you make a right and you see the entire block seemingly devoted to the Chargers. And in the Lakers case, it's just one medium-sized building, and that's it. But the Chargers, I don't know, were you watching the Chargers game?
I was in and out. I wasn't able to watch.
Okay, they actually showed the facility and how detailed it is, and the rows and rows of exercise equipment, and the state of the art, and the fact that they turned in all the commentators are saying how wonderful it was, and looks like it's the best in the league. And again, from the outside, it is huge. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, the Lakers just can't catch a break. But it is what it is.
I don't know. Maybe their marketing team is.
Well, you don't need as much. I mean, it's just the care involved. I don't know. It just, again, you're not going to deal with 50 to 70 players like you would on a football team as compared to 15 or 20 when you're dealing with the Lakers. But still, I just wish they would do more for this team. But it is. JSJ says Chargers is a better organization than the Lakers right now. They may be making more money than the Lakers right now. We'll see. But again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. We truly appreciate it. I get to 2 hours. I got to throw this up on the audios for people out there. So let's see if I can do that. Plus, just some time to go ahead and spend with the family.
I think there's going to be a lot of talk in the next few weeks that's more catered around probably Ohtani on baseball.
There you go. 50-50.
He stole his 48th base today, and he hit his 47th home run. The Dodgers, I believe, have 16 games left. So it's pretty clear he's going to get 50 stolen bases. The last 3 home runs. I was saying he needs a multiple home run game here to really solidify it. But I guess 3 isn't too bad for 16 games left, but we'll see.
They keep flip-flopping with the Phillies for the best record in the major leagues.
Yeah, they blew a game. They blew the game last night. They almost blew it. The Cubs are on a mission right now, and they're just scoring runs like crazy. It just happened tonight. They had a historic first inning where they hit 4 home runs. There was back-to-back home runs as well. I would have been really, really sad if they hadn't won this game due to its historic event. It would have been a great game to be at, I'll tell you that. But Dodgers bullpen, Dodgers pitching right now is in playoff form, and that's not good other than a few starters. So
I'm assuming that you would answer Kurt's question as no.
No. As long as Dave Roberts is there, it'll always be no. So if they get through, then I can say, cool. They were able to do it despite him. But Yamamoto had a phenomenal game. He hadn't pitched in 4 months, yet he still took him out. And I'm just tired of how things are done in all sports these days. If it's not soft, it's refs screwing everything up. If it's not that, it's analytics just absolutely destroying everything else. The games suck. And I watch now out of love of my teams. If the Steelers or the Dodgers or the Lakers ended up folding, I wouldn't watch. But I'm stuck, and they know it.
Want to go ahead and give one final shout out to all of our great members. We added quite a few tonight. Thank you so much for doing so. So please, if you can, become a member. Get access to badges, emojis, and big shout outs like Samir, JSJ, Kurt, Darren, Sports Baby, Richard, Bloodhound, and of course the guy who started it all and has done it all in regards to that would be Xbox himself. Truly appreciate everyone for becoming a member. You can become a member too for just $2.99 a month. If you do, it is sincerely appreciated. JSA says, my family is from San Diego and I'm here 1 hour from LA, and it's tough for me to root against the Padres and Dodgers.
It's okay, I get it.
You get Lakers and fantasy football. Yep. We try to give it to you. A lot of people were asking. It was great last night. We had a lot of people asking, random people coming onto the chat asking fantasy football questions. It was really cool. But again, it is Joe Soro and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for listening. Any comments if you're watching this after the fact, you can put it below. We'll go ahead and try and get to it as soon as we can. Or Lakers Fast Break at yahoo.com. All right, we'll be back if more news hits this week. We'll be back for more great conversation. And we'll always be back here as soon as we can, right here, the Lakers Fast Break podcast.